Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to fifth grade book talks. We are the youth services librarians for Beebe Library, and we're going to be talking to you about some of the selections that are on your reading list this summer. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my colleagues. We have with us Annie Hockheiser.
Hi.
And Heidi Zeibig. My name is Nancy Sheehan, and we all work in the Children's Services Division. And our young adult librarian is also here with us, Casey Chwico. And Casey is going to talk a little bit about the book list and also about the YA Summer Reading Program.
Hi, guys. So welcome to, officially being members of the young adults at Beebe Library. I am excited to have you guys. I know I've talked to many of you, and I know you're excited to be here, even if it's a little different than what we all hoped and what we might be been doing usually. But yeah, we're gonna have a good summer anyway. So yeah, we're gonna talk about some of the books that are on the list. The list is pretty long. It'll be up online, and we'll talk about where you can find that at the end so that it'll hopefully be fresh in your minds. And yeah, so this is just a smattering of the books. There are tons more. You can also read whatever you want. We know you're trying to find books online this year, and we might not be able to have as many copies as we might usually. So feel free to, while you're waiting for something on this list, maybe one of the books we book talked, find something else to read, come back to it when it comes due. So yeah, that's what we're going to do for that. We are going to have some young adult programs. So now any programs with a little YA label on them, you guys can attend. We'll have some of those over the course of the summer. Dates and exactly what they are, it will be forthcoming in the next couple of weeks. The other thing that will be forthcoming is our actual summer reading program. Our theme this year is Imagine Your Story, and we're going to be celebrating that via bingo cards for everyone. So there's going to be children's bingo cards, YA bingo cards, and adult bingo cards. So make your entire family participate. Don't let the parents get out of it. They have to do it too. Have fun this summer with it. And we'll also have more information out about how exactly that's going to work, how you find your bingo card, prizes, all that kind of stuff in the next couple of weeks as we get closer to our kickoff on the 22nd. So I'm going to start with a book first. And my first book is Front Desk by Kelly Yang, which is a historical fiction, but as you can tell, she does have a phone, so it's not too historical. And it's based off the author's own experiences in life, which is pretty cool. And it's about 10-year-old Mia, whose parents manage a motel, and they do all the work. They do all the cleaning, all the data checking in and checking out people, everything, because the owner's never there. And Mia, when not at school, runs the front desk to kind of help her parents out. And the front desk is basically in her family's living room because they live in a set of rooms right off the office. And between the stress of that and her parents being run ragged and her not being able to help as much as maybe she would like to because they insist she goes to school, her parents are also sheltering immigrants on the property. And Mia's okay with this. And her parents, they're friends of friends or people they've heard about. But the problem is that the owner, who's not a very nice person, does not know about this at all. But between the long-term residents of the motel and a few dedicated friends from school, Mia starts to kind of find a place and a, routine that really works for her until the owner finds out about the other immigrants and has some disagreements with the long-term residents. And Mia's stuck with the issue of what can a 10-year-old do to solve this problem? Her parents are now in trouble, their livelihood's at stake, and she's rightly panicking. So read the book to find out what exactly power even a 10-year-old can have against other people. All right, so we're going to move on to, so that's Front Desk by Kelly Yang, and we're going to move on to Annie.
Hi guys, I'm Annie, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about Arusha and the End of Time by Roshini Chokshi. So this starts with a dare. Arusha is really desperate to impress her sort of snooty private school friends. So when she takes them on a tour of the Museum of Ancient Indian Art and Culture, which is where her mother works, She can't say no when she's dared to light a supposedly cursed lamp. The lamp, as it turns out, is definitely cursed. When Aru lights it, she releases the sleeper, which is a demon that's going to summon Shiva, who is the Hindu god of destruction. And Shiva is just going to, casually end the world. No big deal, right? Time freezes. And if that's not weird enough, a talking pigeon then arrives and reveals to Aru that she's actually not just a regular 7th grader. She is actually one of 5 Pandavas, or a reincarnation of an ancient warrior demigod. Now, with the help of Minnie, who is another Pandava, Aru has this sort of race against time as she has to embark on a quest with Minnie in order to stop the sleeper before Shiva is summoned and ends the world. So Arusha and the End of Time, it takes readers on this really fantastical adventure, and it's all inspired by Hindu mythology, which, if you're familiar with it or not, it's really complex, and Roshini Chokshi does a really nice job of making it all very readable, even though there's a lot of different layers to it. And this is also part of the Rick Riordan Presents imprint. So if you're a fan of like Percy Jackson or the Kane Chronicles or Magnus Chase, this is a really great read-alike, and it will give you a little background on Hindu mythology, which is always really interesting to read about. And I'm going to turn it over to Heidi.
My first book is The London Eye Mystery by Siobhan Dowd. The London Eye, if you're not familiar, is the tallest observation Ferris wheel in Europe, and it's located on the River Thames in London. And it's the backdrop for this intriguing mystery. Ted and his older sister Kat take their visiting cousin Salim to the Eye because he's never ridden on it. As they are waiting in line for a ticket, a mysterious man approaches them and offers them his ticket. He says he's afraid of small spaces, so they don't think it's too weird that he would be giving them a ticket. And without thinking, they give the ticket to Salim. At 11:32 a.m., Ted and Kat watch their cousin board the Eye. He turns and waves from the pod as it begins to ascend. 30 minutes pass. At 12:02, the pod lands and the doors open. People begin coming out until the pod is empty. But Salim isn't there. Where is Salim? And so the mystery begins. Ted and Kat search everywhere to find him. And when the police don't have any clue as to where he's gone, they join forces in search of their cousin. They follow a trail of clues all over London. And it finally comes down to Ted, who is autistic and who has a very unique problem-solving brain, to find the key to this spine-tingling thriller. Read The London Eye Mystery. And over to Nancy.
Let's see. The book that I'm going to tell you about today is called The Lions of Little Rock by Kristen Levine, and it is about a young lady who has a problem that probably some of you have encountered, going into a new and being a little nervous about it. Anyway, Marley is kind of a quiet girl who doesn't like to get into a whole lot of conflicts with people. She sort of goes with the flow, and even if she doesn't want to do something, she's pretty easily pushed into it because she really doesn't want to gear up for the fight to stand her ground and to tell somebody else that she doesn't want to do something. And this has left her with some very strange friend choices, because some of her friends that she hangs around with, and there aren't many of them, she doesn't like very much. They're not very nice people, she finds, but her mother encourages the friendships, and so she keeps the friendships up. And then one day, Marley meets Liz, and Liz is a dynamo. She is incredible, and Marley is so impressed by her because Liz has no problem telling anybody exactly what is on her mind. She is very bold. She's outright brash, and she has no problems setting boundaries with anyone. Well, Marley comes to really admire this about Liz, and the two become very, very, very fast and furious friends. And then, one day, quite suddenly, Liz drops out of Marley's world. She leaves school without a word. Find out why Liz left school in The Lions of Little Rock by Kristen Levine. And now we're off to Casey again.
All right, so my second book is Gregor the Overlander by Suzanne Collins. And some of you might be familiar with the author's name because she is the same author as she is the same person who wrote The Hunger Games. And honestly, this series is just as good. It's a 5-book series. It's long completed, and it focuses on Gregor, who is a fairly normal kid living in New York City, in an apartment in New York City. But his father disappeared some time back, and so things are a little complicated. You know, his mom's trying to be a single mother, and he has a toddler sister named Boots that he spends a lot of his time taking care of, and it makes it very hard to have friends and to do some of those normal kid things. So one day, while he's doing laundry and he's taking Boots down with him, the two of them fall through a grate in the floor, ending up in what is known as the Underland, a world underneath New York City populated by oversized rats, spiders, cockroaches, and also, weirdly, a lot of humans. This world down there is on the brink of war. They are all at each other's throats, and it turns out that Gregor's fall is no accident, at least according to them, because there's this little thing called a prophecy, and the prophecy talks about Gregor. He's totally ready to just say, nope, none of this. I am taking my tiny sister and I am going home. But then he finds out that this same prophecy might help him find his missing dad. So what choice does he really have? You know, he wants his family whole again. So even when the prophecy suggests some very dire things, Gregor, 2-year-old Boots, and some of their new allies set off to see if they can stop a war. And that's Gregor the Overlander, the first book in the Overland Chronicles. So now we're going to go back to Annie for her next book.
My next one that I have to talk about is The Great Green Heist by Varian Johnson. And Jackson Green on the cover here has finally reformed. No, really, this time. He's actually done with pranking for good. We're giving it up. Until he finds out that the student council election is about to be rigged by Keith Sinclair, who's sort of the school bully. And not only is the election being rigged, it's being rigged against his friend Gabby. Kind of friend Gabby? I don't know. Gabby hasn't spoken to him in nearly 4 months, and she really doesn't want anything to do with him. She wants him to stay out of things. But Jackson doesn't really stay out of things. So he decides that he's going to get involved and try to make this a fair election for Gabby. And the only way that he can make things fair, of course, is by scheming once again. So with only 1 week until the election comes up, Jackson has to assemble sort of a crack team to help him pull off his most elaborate scheme to date to stop Keith from rigging this election and to help Gabby have a fair shot at being the president of the student body and hopefully get her to talk to him again. So The Great Green Heist, it's a really fast-paced, sort of a bait-and-switch caper novel, and it's full of different twists and turns, surprises, and it's also pretty funny as well, so it has a couple of laughs in there. But really great if you're looking for something that is, you know, just really big, action-packed, and fast-paced, and a really large cast of characters as well. And we'll move back to Heidi for our next one.
My next book's one of my favorites, and it's the classic Hatchet by Gary Paulsen. 13-year-old Brian Robeson from New York City is on his way to Canada to visit his father. When the pilot of his small plane has a heart attack, Brian is forced to crash land the plane into the lake. He manages to get to shore with the clothing on his back and the hatchet his mother gave to him as a present before he left. As he's sitting alone in the darkness, he cried and was done, all done with it. Nothing had changed. His legs still hurt. It was still dark. He was still alone, and this self-pity accomplished nothing. Brian is desolate, alone, exhausted, terrified, and hungry. He doesn't know anything about surviving in the wilderness, let alone the Canadian wilderness. and each day is a supreme challenge. Is the water safe to drink? Are the berries poisonous? He is eaten by mosquitoes, encounters all shapes and sizes of wildlife, and even survives devastating storms. But can he find his way out? He begins to replace his self-pity with hope. And he says, not hope that would be rescued, but hope in his knowledge, hope in the fact that he could learn to survive and take care of himself. Tough hope. He thought that night, I am full of tough hope. To see if he gets rescued, take a look at Hatchet by Gary Paulsen. And now, Nancy.
Well, I seem to have drawn the lucky card for books about starting middle school, because my next book is about a young boy named Miles, and he's about to start he's about to start a new school, and he's very nervous about it because he knows that in middle school there is a pecking order, and everyone has a role to play. There are the best looking kids and the popular kids, and he is very nervous that there is not going to be a role for him when he goes to his new school. And then he thinks of something. He realizes that in his school, in the school he goes to now, he is the master of the practical joke. And maybe there isn't a master of practical joking at his new school. And so he starts concocting all sorts of jokes to play on the student body. And he has the very high hope that there isn't anybody quite as talented in this role in his However, he was not counting on being ambushed on his very first trick by who else? Niles, the Joker of his going to end with these two pranksters trying to outdo each other all the time. To find out, read The Terrible Two by Mac Barnett. And we're off to you again, Casey.
All right, I'm gonna finish up with one last book. I'm gonna finish up we're each gonna do one more book. So this is my last book. This is Dactyl Hill Squad by Daniel Jose Older. And it is the first in a series of at least 3 books in which a group of Civil War orphans become a squad of dinosaur-riding fighters. I'm just saying, that should sell you right there. It's well worth it. But I'm going to tell you a little bit more just in case you're not completely sold yet. So in this reimagining of the American Civil War, it's 1863, and dinosaurs roam the streets of New York City alongside humans. While on a field trip from their orphanage, Magdalise and her friends are caught in the middle of the real-life draft riots that happened in New York City at the time. While a few of them, including Magdalise, escape, many of the kids from the orphanage are caught by a man working with the police to send free blacks back into slavery. His name is Riker. The orphans flee to Brooklyn and Dactyl Hill, where they find adult allies willing to help them learn how to ride on the dactyls in the sky and also rescue their friends. With time running out until their friends are sold, will Magdalise and the others be able to mount a proper rescue? Will they have to fight other dinosaurs to do so? To find out, you should definitely read Dactyl Hill Squad and its sequels by Daniel Jose Older. And we're going to go to Annie.
Hi guys, last one from me today is going to be Listen Slowly by Tengha Lai. So born and raised in California, the protagonist, Mai, really can't wait to spend her summer vacation on the beach. But instead she has to travel to Vietnam with her grandmother, who's going back there to find out what really happened to her husband during the Vietnam War. And Mai's parents think that this trip is the perfect opportunity for her to finally learn about her culture and her heritage. But Mai doesn't really feel that connected to her Vietnamese roots. To her, those aren't her roots, they're her parents' roots. And Vietnam is just the last place that she wants to be. She doesn't speak the language, she doesn't know the geography, she doesn't know any of the local customs, she doesn't even know her relatives who live there. So to survive this trip, Mai has to figure out how to find a balance between these two worlds that she inhabits. And in Tang Ha Lai's Listen Slowly, it's really a story about discovering that home and culture and friends and family can all have different meanings and mean different things to one person. And back to you, Heidi, one last time.
Thank you. My last book is by Gordon Corman, and it's called The Hypnotist. Is it a gift or is it a curse? Like, young Jack Opus uses his color-changing eyes to make people do things. Like, he can make his friends act like chickens, or he can tell a basketball rival not to play well. And the only person that seems to be immune from this is his best friend Tommy, who is colorblind. One day, a stranger shows up. His name is Dr. Elias Mako from the Sentia Institute for Hypnosis. He tells Jax that he is descended from two of the most powerful hypnotist bloodlines in the world, and he encourages Jax to join his institute. Jax is pretty excited because he thought he was going crazy with this power, so he joins. And after a while, he notices something odd about the other hypnotists and their type of hypnotism. Jax realizes he is over his head with these guys. Things become dangerous, and he is drawn into an actual conspiracy, which he doesn't like at all. So he leaves the institute, and it's a race against time to save his best friend, his parents, and his country. Read The Hypnotist and the sequels, Memory Maze and Dragon Effect. Back to you, Nancy. Oh.
I'm not Nancy.
Sorry.
My name is Fowl. Artemis Fowl. You know, a 12-year-old boy can be lots of things. Let's take me, for instance. I happen to be 20% genius, 20% charmer, and 20% manipulative, but I am also 20% con artist, and I'm 20% filthy rich. Now, what that adds up to is that I am 100% criminal. Watch me as I outwit high-tech police forces, both human and otherworldly, in the first of many of my adventures, called Artemis Fowl by Ian Colfer. And so, ladies and gentlemen, those are a few of our summer reading picks and suggestions on your suggested reading list for kids going into 5th grade. We hope that you liked some of them and that you heard about something that you would like to read. We hope that you'll read lots, and we hope to see you participating in our summer reading program, Imagine Your Story. And you can find more information on that in the coming weeks at wakefieldlibrary.org. And you can also find more great reading suggestions on your summer reading list at wakefieldreads.org. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great summer. Bye, guys.
Bye.